Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another tutorial. In this one, we're learning some routing in PHP. So routing in PHP. All right. So what is routing? Now, routing is um, the method of loading a particular file depending on what is in the URL. So if, for example, I have a website where the URL is www. Let's say website.com, and then just by loading that, the router should know that this is a home page. Whereas if I do /profile like this, it should know I want the profile page. Now, if I do something like profile /edit/1 or 2 or 3, this should be an indication that I want to load the profile page, but I want to edit it, and the ID of the record that I want to edit is record number 3. So the website should know which page to load in order to get this action to be done. So the process of selecting what page is loaded depending on what's in the URL is called routing. So this is what we're going to create. Now we're going to create a more professional version of routing, not something just simple, something similar to what frameworks do. So frameworks will create a routing system, for example, like where you tell it something like, you say router, and then you choose whether you want to use a get or post variable, and then you tell it what link or what page you want to go to, and then you can write variables as well, something like ID. And then on top of that, you can add some what we call middleware, for example, auth or authentication, short for authentication, like that. Now, what this middleware is for is to tell the user that, or tell the website that in order to access this page, you need to be authenticated, and then you can put as many of these as you want. Maybe you need to be admin, you need to be authenticated, you need to be admin, or you need to own the profile, etc., etc. So you can put as many of these as you want. And also what we want to achieve as well, not only do we add middleware here, we want to tell it what file to load. So we can have something like, for example, let's say we are loading a controller that is inside the admin folder, and then we say dot, maybe it's home, like that, and then full colon, and then index, something like that. Or maybe since we're editing now, it's the edit. So in this situation, it's we want it to know that we are targeting a folder called admin, and inside there is a class called home, and inside that class there's a function called edit. So it targets this file inside our system. So you tell it that if somebody types a link like this with a variable here, this could be any number, go ahead and access the admin folder. Inside there's a home class, and inside that home class there's an edit function. That's what you should load. And then make sure the user is authenticated and they are admin at the same time. So this is something that we need to be able to create. That's a system we want to create. And also, in case you want to route a few grouped items, because for example, if these are all admin based items, it would be nice to group them, because there's something like, maybe there's a delete version, and then there's the update version, which is edit. But we want to be able to make a group like this, something like that. And then within that group, we can authenticate all of these, or check for all of these. That way, instead of putting middleware, because all this is the same in all of these, instead of putting that individually, we can actually have it right here on the, maybe here on the group. 1 second here. Just as an example, right? We have it on the group itself. That way we don't have to individually specify this like that. So this is a system we want to create where we can group stuff like that, and we can make routes like this more professional, just like what frameworks usually do. So I hope you understand this part here. So if you are ready to go, let's begin. Now, the first thing you have to do is make sure that you have XAMPP installed on your system, or you have some kind of server, Apache, which I'll be using, and also PHP. Now you can get all that by just downloading XAMPP and installing it, and then open its control panel and start Apache here. Just make sure Apache is running. That's great. Then we create a project folder, and that project folder will be inside the htdocs folder. So you find the htdocs folder inside the C XAMPP htdocs, or whatever folder that you decided to use when installing XAMPP, because this is the XAMPP folder. So inside here, I want to create a folder called routing. So let me create a new folder, routing, like that. You can name this folder whatever you want, but I'm just naming it routing for the sake of this tutorial. And then I'm going to use my text editor, which is Sublime Text. Now you can use any text editor of your choice. I'm just going to grab the folder. What did I just do? I think I ended up doing something I shouldn't have. Let me undo that. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to drag and drop my folder into my text editor here for editing. Okay, so now once you reach this point, we are ready to go. So in our project file here, let's create an htaccess file. First of all, I'm going to create a new file called index. This is the home page. So we're just going to write homepage over here. And then let's save that. So this one will be saved as index.php. Okay, as the home page. Now let's go to our browser. I'm just going to create a new tab, a new window. So here, if I type localhost / routing, because that's the folder I created, I will get homepage like that. Okay, great. But if in front of routing, I do something like /profile, something like this, it's going to tell me not found because there's no folder like that in that folder. So instead, I want to tell it that no matter what I type in here, I just want it to load the index page. Okay. So, by the way, let's create a folder structure that's much more convenient. So new folder, let's say public, and new folder, let's say app. What we normally do so that it doesn't get confusing for you guys, let me close the index file. And if I go back to it, to the folder, let me right click and say open folder. I want to move the index file into the public folder there. Okay. So in the public folder, that's where we have our index.php. So if I go back here, I should type routing /public. Now don't mind, this is the base folder. Now don't mind the fact that we have to type routing /public at the end. When you upload this to a website, this public folder will be the base. So it's just going to be www.yourwebsite.com, and that's it. You won't have to type /public or routing or whatever. Okay, so in here, still, if I type /profile like that, it will tell me not found. So what I want is to tell it that no matter what I type, it should just load the index page. And we can do that with Apache mode rewrite, which is done using an htaccess file. So inside the public folder, let's create a new file. This is going to be the htaccess file. So to stop users from snooping, I'm just going to say options and then -indexes like that. that will stop anyone snooping. Before I save this, let me create another. Let me remove this home. Let me rename this home page, right? The index page. I'm just going to say index 1 like that so that you see what that does. So I'm going to remove profile here. And when I load my base file, it just shows me the index because it can't find an index.php file. It just shows me what's in the folder. So this is what I want to prevent. So I do say options-indexes and save this file. It's in the public folder. I'm going to save it as .htaccess like that. Okay, no file name, just .htaccess. The moment I do that, if I now refresh, it's going to tell me this action is forbidden. And that's how you secure your files there so that nobody can snoop around. That's number 1. Now let's take this back to our index. Let's rename it back to index.php. That way we can have something load here instead of saying forbidden. And there we go. So now what I want to do is that so that when I type anything in front of this, I don't get the not found. Instead, it loads the index file regardless. So there we're going to do a rewrite. So we're going to say rewrite engine. Let's switch the rewrite engine on. And then we're going to create a rewrite rule. So there's a rewrite rule here we're going to create. And the rule goes something like select everything from beginning, okay, dot star, which means any character of any length from beginning to end. Send all that into the index.php file. However, create a get variable called URL and put in whatever content you matched here, which is everything, $1 like that. Let's put some flags here, which is QSA, query string allowed, so that whatever we put in here also gets the query string as well. You don't have to do that if you don't want the query string in there. That's entirely up to you. Okay, so with that, let's save this. Now, we need a rewrite condition. So we're going to write that before we go any further because it's easy to forget. In here, we'll do % curly brace and we'll say request file name underscore file name and exclamation -f. That just means allow files, and then we put -d allow folders as well. That way, if it's a valid file that we're trying to access, don't send it to the index PHP instead. Just load that file as is. If we don't put these, we won't be able to have CSS files and images and all that. So we should allow those to go through. All right, so once we save that and I refresh, now you will see that I always get the home page regardless the gibberish I type in there. It doesn't matter. It's just going to load the index page, which is great. Let's close that htaccess file. And now in my index page here, I want to run some, oops. Okay. So in here, I want to add some PHP tags, and I want to print what's inside the get variable, right? Inside the get function. No, the get array, rather. Let me echo some pre-tags for some nice formatting. And there we go. So now again, if I refresh, you see that it shows me what's inside my URL here. So I can say profile, something like this, /edit /2 or 3. And you see it shows me that content, which is exactly what I want. Now, if I put a query string here and say ID is equal to 3, I get that as well. Over here, it allows those to also continue as normal. So this is awesomeness. That's the first step. Now let's create some files that we can use here. So I'm going to go to my inside my index.php here. I just want to require an init file. That way we can load all other files through this one. This is the loader. Maybe let's call it loader, like that. And this one is going to be inside the app folder, and inside it's going to be loader like that. So app folder, new file, let's create loader. Yeah, loader.php. You can call these files whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I just want it to require some files. So in here, I'm going to require the router file .php, right? And then there's going to be also a router class. So the router class is the one that will, so this is capital R, like that, router.php. I think this one I can put it inside a folder called classes, like that, /router. And within that, let's see, right click, new folder in the app, and I'm going to say classes. So we create a new folder there. So classes, there we go. And then the router is just going to be right next to the loader here, because it's just in the same folder. So right click, new file, and this one, save. This one is router.php. Should I call this one router? No, let me call it routes, because it's the one that we're going to save our routes in. So I'm going to save that. Those are the routes. And if I come back to the loader, let me do that. Routes. This one will be the router.php. Now, I don't have to put it in classes folder. I can just have it here as well, I guess. That's up to you. But just to be organized, you can put it inside classes. So new file in classes, that's PHP. Let's create a class here, router, capital R, because it's going to be a class. And let's create a generic class here. I'm just going to say router class. We're not going to use namespaces in here, because this is just a simple example of stuff that we should be doing. Maybe we should use namespaces so that when you do want to use namespaces, it's not so awkward at all. Okay, so let's give it a namespace, right? Namespace, let's just say core, like that. Okay, namespace is like folders for classes. So this one will be like in a folder called core. You can do that. You can put it in a folder called core, but I won't do that. It's just the namespace here so that we know in case we create a different version of router, we can put it in a different namespace, just like folders work. Let me remove this. Okay, great. So with that, we should see if there's any errors. The loader is loaded. It's going to load our router class, and then there's routes file. So the routes file is over here, and this is where we will describe what routes we need. So let me come back here and refresh just to see that there are no errors, and we are good to go. Everything is loaded as intended. Okay, so let's create some example routes here, and then we're going to create some view files and all that so that we see how that works all together. Now, inside the app folder, I'm going to create a new folder. This is where all the controllers are going to be. I'm going to call it controllers. And this one, a new folder again. This one is going to be views. Actually, we don't need views for now. Let me leave that out. We just need to load the right controllers for now. We're not talking about entire MVC. This is just about controllers because that's what goes with routing. So inside the controllers here, I want to create the first control, which is for the home page, new file, and let's do that. I'm going to save in here, and this one is the home.php controller. So this is like the controller, the file that loads when we are accessing the home page. So here I'm going to create a class because we are using OOP. This is professional stuff, right? So home class, let's call it home controller, right? So this one is going to be home. Now this can extend some other controller. Maybe there's a base controller that keeps functions like the view function, etc., etc. So you can extend it at this point, but that's not what we are trying to learn here. Here we just want to know the routing part of things. So we're going to have an index function. This is a public function, of course. So public function index. So here I'm just going to copy. Now every controller should have an index function because that's like the base function to run from home controller, like that. So we're just going to echo that so that we know when we are in the home controller and this function is running. Okay, great. Now with all that in mind, let's create our routes here. Now, inside routes, like I said, this is where we create our routing system. So I'm just going to say router is equal to new. Now that thing is inside the core namespace, and then router. I'll do it. Oh, we don't put that PHP, right? And then I'm going to say router. We're going to have two functions, the get function and the post function. So get is for when you are accessing the page using a get request, and post is for when you are doing it with a post request. So I just want to know if this is working just fine. We don't need a constructor here, so let me just change that to get and public it, like that. Okay, so I don't want to see any errors here, so let me refresh. If there are no errors, then things went well, actually. Let me just make sure that we are running these things. So I'm just going to echo and say router, just so that we see if we're in the router at all. So I'm going to refresh, and there we see things are running as intended. Okay, now the way we want our routing to go is something like, if I do / like this, right? That's the home page. And then I have to give it more information, like what class am I going to load? This one is the home class, like that. Then I'm going to put a full colon and say index, which is like the index function we're going to use. Now, here you can make this into anything you want, really. I can say we use an array instead, where we put in the first item as the controller itself and the second item as the method. It's really up to you. I find this a bit simpler to type like that. This is the only reason we are going to use this version. And then on top of that, I want us to add some middleware here. We should be able to do that. So I'm going to add auth as the middleware. Now, of course, we are making it an array because we want to be able to add several if we want middlewares like that. Okay. So we don't need anyone to be authenticated on the home page, that is. So let's try a different one, like, for example, maybe on the profile page index, we need authentication. So I'm going to remove this one here and leave just that. Now this one should go to the profile like that. So when somebody accesses profile like this, this is what happens. Now they should be able to not just say profile, but they should add an ID over there, like so. Okay, great. Alrighty then, now to the admin section. So if I, let me duplicate this, and let's try admin. Now I want to be able to do something like this. Now, all this I'm doing here would not work. I'm going to get errors if I try to run this because we haven't generated any code to decipher this. So this is just for to tell you what we are supposed to be able to do before we actually create the code that does it. So now I want to also be able to say group like this, okay, to create a group. And then in the group, I just have to tell it the group route like that. And then I want to be able to add a function here that will run. And here I'm just going to do something like that, put a variable in there, open and close like that. So what I'm supplying here is a string and a function. So I'm supplying a function to this function, right? You can do that. And in this function, I wanted to use this as the router, and then it can be able to add routes in there. So this creates a group. That way, instead of, let's say, for example, I had several items that depended on the admin section. So I would need to do this admin slash for every one of them, right? Maybe there are 100 of these. I'm going to have to be typing admin slash blah, 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 admin slash. So instead, I can create a group where I just type the admin part here. And then within here, I can type dashboard, whatever it is, right? So let's try maybe in the admin, we have the dashboard. So this is going to be like admin slash dashboard, or maybe slash home, like that. Okay. Or maybe just slash like that, like just slash admin. That would be okay. Now this is where folders come in. We should be able to make folders in here. Now this is admin, but there's a home controller here, which is within the, this is the home controller, but this one should be the admin controller, I guess. So that's the admin controller, but we'll put this in a folder. So I want to be able to do something like admin dot something like that, so that this one becomes a folder, and this is the controller as expressed previously. And then within the admin, I should be able maybe to edit users, for example. I can do something like users, and then users doesn't really do anything, it's just users. And then here I can have the users thingy and then index, right? Now I don't need this auth thingy here. I can move this entire thing over here like that. So that becomes part of the group thingy here. So all these that are in here will have the same middleware here, which is auth. So we'll have to check if they're authenticated before they can access whatever is in these pages. So also with users, we can do something like edit slash and then ID of the thing you are editing, like that. Okay, and then here that means users, but then we go to the edit method. Okay, the same goes for delete. This would be the same exact thing, and delete like that. Okay, guys. So let's save that. So all this must be able to work in the system that we're creating. And I just want an extra one that doesn't really make much sense, but this one will be like for products. And then inside products, there should be a category and then an ID, something like that. So here I'll change that to products. And then within products, there should be an index. Now we don't need auth here to be running, but maybe for this one, but not for this one. So I'm going to remove that middleware there so that they can access it without any restrictions. And then finally, I should be able to say router and then run, something like that. So we can run the router. So I need to create that function. So I'm going to say public function run. Okay. Okay, guys. So let's see if there are any errors. And there we go. So core to undefined method, core router group. Okay, so group does not exist. So let me just create it. Public function group. Also, we need another function called add middleware so that we can add those middleware. So I'm going to create it here. Like that. Add middleware. So that inside routes here, these middlewares that I'm creating here and there should be actual functions that can run. So let's say, for example, this one should be auth, but also should be admin, like that. Okay. So here, the middleware should be added first before you start adding routes. So we're going to say add middleware, like that. And how do we add middleware here? We name the middleware. So for example, I have auth, like that. And then I'm going to create a function that runs, which is the actual middleware itself. Now here, it depends what we want to do. You can create functions inside. You can create another file that's called, instead of routes, it's called middlewares, for example. And then you can add all the functions in there, the middleware functions that you want, or you can put them right here. Now, doing it like this is okay for small cases, but sometimes your middleware can get very complicated. And so maybe we should just put a thing like this and call the function that we want. So this function can be something like, maybe we can name all the middleware functions like this. So we say middleware auth, like that. That way we know, let's see here, add middleware, okay, auth, and that's the function that should run. So it's entirely up to you, but I think it would be much cleaner if we didn't put them here. Now it's entirely up to you. If you put them here, you just put a function there, or if not, you just put the name of the function. I'm conflicted as to which one to use, but I want this file as clean as possible, right? So with that in mind, these are routes. Let's add middlewares, because that's the file we're going to be editing quite a bit. So here I'm just going to say new file, and let's put some PHP tags and save this and call it middleware.php. Middlewares. I don't know if plural is good. Whatever. But the loader here should load that before routes, right? So here we're going to load middlewares, or middleware, like that. Or instead, let's do this. Let's just add a I don't know. This is conflicting me here now. Not really sure how to do this. Because we could have a class that's main middleware, and then we say run, and that one will run whatever function we give it. That's one way to do it. I don't know. You guys can become creative with this. You can create whatever you want. Let me just simplify this. So let me delete that middleware file. Sorry about that, guys. Let me do it this way. Function, blah, blah, blah. Here, let's put some data, an array, so that in case we have any data to send to the middleware, we'll put it here. Okay. Okay. So in order to separate this, what we can do is, let me just cut this out of here. So I'm going to cut this. Oh, no. We need to instantiate this before we can do any of this. So for example, here you can put an if statement and say something like, well, if, not is set session, maybe user, something like that. So if there's somewhere where you save user data in the session, if that's not set, then let's redirect the user to some other page. So we can use the header function here, location, redirect to login page. Actually, just /login, like that. and then die. Okay. All right, so let me put those curly braces. Oops. All right then. So as you can see, this is a middleware function, and we've added that middleware. So add middleware and the function. So what's happening is that once we add that, we can be able to run this function later. So I think while we are doing this, maybe there's a better method we can use, because I just don't like the fact that I'm putting actual code here, because sometimes this code can become very complex and it can make this page quite not look so good. It can become very, very long. So we'll see. So, okay, for now, this is good enough. And let's see what we have if I now refresh the page. So we don't get any errors. So we are good up to this point, guys. All right, so let's make the meat of the router class happen. All right, so at the same time here, we also need to have some post routing, just so we know that that works as well. So if, for example, I'm editing something, I'll probably need, let me try on profile here. I'll probably need a post version of this. So I can leave it at that. This one would be something like, if I post, maybe I am editing this particular thing. So I'm just going to say edit slash and then ID. So this one will go to the edit function. Now this one, maybe it can be save instead of editing. Save, something like that. Okay, so let's make these work. Now I'm going to go to the router. This is the meat of the matter. And we should have a run function, which is this one. I'm going to put this at the end because it's going to be the longest of them all. All right. So I want to create the get and the post. So let me duplicate this. This one is post. So now to make this work. So here in the get, we have a few things. First of all, we have the route, and then we have our function. So all we need to do is get those. So I'm going to come back here, and I want to get what's inside URL. Do I need to? No, I don't. So here I'm just going to say path, and then the handler, okay, and then the middleware. Those are the things we expect. Middleware should be an array, so I'm going to set it to optional empty, because it's not always that we're going to have middleware as well. Okay, so with this, all we need to do is save some stuff. So here I'm going to have a protected variable called, let's just name it routes. And yep, routes is going to be equal to an array, an empty array. So I'm just going to add 2 routes, and I'm just going to say this because this class, and then routes. And then inside routes, I'm going to put get like that, and then an array like so is equal to, because we're going to have many get routes. So these are in the get, and then it's an array, so I can add multiple items. Now within there, I'm going to put an array as well. So save an array inside an array. So the first thing is we save the path. So right on to path. Sorry, comma. So 3 things I'm saving. The handler as well. And here I'm going to save the... wait a second. This one should be the... Let's just name it the class. Okay, so save the class. And then I'll save the method. And let's name it method here. And then, what's the rest? Middleware. I'll name it middleware. Okay, like that. Okay, great. That's all we are doing, saving that data. But we need to define these variables because remember the handler comes in as two parts. So we have to split it in the middle here. Okay, so back to router. So let's just say parts is equal to, we split using explode, and we are looking for that full column. We are splitting the handler. Okay, so now the class is going to be parts. Let me capitalize it just to make sure it's always capitalized. So I'm going to say UC first to capitalize the first letter, and parts 0. This one will always be there, even if there's only one array item, because it's always going to be 0. But the second item, I don't need to do UC first here because method names will not be capitalized. Now, in case it does not exist, I want us to save just index like that. Now, what this does is it offers us an opportunity to ignore the index by just saying profile like that, and they need to find the index get if it wants to. So we can experiment that by removing that one here, because most of the time we're going to have this index if it's the first item. So I want us to be able to ignore it and do that. So it should work on both situations. Okay, so with that, we've saved all the routes into routes there. So this will apply very closely to the post version. Let me paste that. The only thing we change is the array key, which is post. So these go into post, like so. Okay, middleware. Okay, I think this works as intended. Great. So once we save those get variables or those variables, we now need to run the thing. So forget about the middlewares for now and the groupings. Actually, with group, it's actually a simple thing to do. Inside group, we need to know, all we need to do, let's see here. So in the group, we're just getting a prefix here. Then we're going to add this prefix to these guys here. Okay. And then run these within there. So not really and then save the middleware as well. So not really a big deal. Let's deal with it. So I'm going to say inside group, I expect a prefix. So that's a prefix. So this is the path prefix. Okay. And then I will expect, what else do I expect from this group? So group has that. And then there's a callback function here. And then after the callback, there is the middlewares over here. So we should be able to account for that as well. So let me go over to routes here. So there's the prefix, and then there's the callback function. Those are required. And then there's middleware as well. Now this is optional. So I'm going to put it like that. And what do I do? What else do I do? So I'm going to add a protected path prefix, which is going to be empty like that for a start. Okay. So group path prefix. Great. Okay, so I'm just going to say this path prefix is equal to the current path prefix we've brought. That's great. So we are saving it in there so that as we run the callback functions, it will be saved. We'll be adding it to whatever path we have. Okay, so middlewares as well. Let's save those. current middlewares. This one will be an array. Forgot the equal sign on this one. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So we put that group, and then we say group. Same thing. This middleware, current middlewares, is equal to middleware, like that. Okay. So whatever middlewares we have there, we will put them in here so that we can access these from whichever function we want. Okay, so this is good. And then the next thing now is to run the callback, because here, look at this. When I say routes group, I am calling that group function. And within that group, within these parameters that I'm sending, one of them is an actual function, which will actually add the routes. Some of these may be posts, some of them may be get variables, right? Because like, for example, whenever you're editing, obviously you need a post version of this edit, and maybe this one will go to the save function, like that. So edit view, this one will just show the view, and then this one will save when we are done editing. So this function should be run in order for these routes to be saved, So we need to run that. So now when we are running, it's going to receive this R variable, because we won't know what router is from the inside of this function, because this is like a function. This is a function within a function. So router doesn't mean anything within this function. Instead, it's this R over here that we are going to pass into this. So I'm going to do this and substitute that like so. Of course, you can name it anything, this R here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to run the callback. So when I say callback like that, if I put brackets like so, it's going to run it like a function. And because the callback is a real function, that will work. But here we have to supply the router itself, because router is the one that has the get function, which is this. So I'm going to supply itself within that function. So I'm going to say this like that. So meaning we're going to run this function with the class itself inserted inside that function. Okay, so once we do that, that will run everything and save. Okay, great. Now we have the middleware. Wait, go back here. These are, and then maybe we can just apply the middleware. Maybe that could save time. Or let's see. Boom, boom. Maybe we can do that. Instead of saving the middlewares in there, maybe we can send this information here, the prefix, callback this, and then wait a minute. Boom, boom, boom. No, this is not going to give us any advantage at all. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Great. Okay, so let's see how any of this is going to run. Add middleware, boom, middleware. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Now, at this point, we have to change this, because if there's some current middleware that is saved from the group, we have to add it to this current thing here. But if it's empty, then that's good, right? Now, if the next group has no middleware, that may be a problem. So let's see here. How are we gonna do this? Okay, so this middleware equal middleware. Okay, so if the next group doesn't have middleware, that's great. It's gonna be like that. Group. Okay, so after running this, I want to just empty the middleware, because once the group is done, the middleware should go back to being empty. I think just cleaning up there, that's great, so that we don't accidentally add the wrong middleware. Because think of it, if I have a group here, and then later on I just have these routes that are on the outside here, they may grab onto the last group that was there, and I don't want that. So I want to empty that once I run all the callbacks, all the functions inside the callback. Okay, and with that, I will change this code over here to say array merge. Okay, so this function, you can merge two arrays. So the current middleware that is here is fine, but let's add with whatever group middleware is also there. So I'm just gonna say comma this current middlewares, like that. So it's gonna combine those two arrays. So what this means is that if, for example, inside the group there's one item with a middleware that doesn't match this, it's just going to be, when we check for this, when we run this route, we're going to add that middleware that's there plus the group middleware as well. But the rest will just get the group middleware because they have nothing here, but they're supposed to adhere to that as well. Okay, so let me copy that and let me paste it here as well. Hopefully this will not cause any problems. Okay. Now also there's a prefix here which we have to deal with. So I'm just going to duplicate that and come back here. I want to empty the prefix here at the very end. So if there's a prefix, for example, when adding these, so there's a path here, I want to be able to add the prefix to the beginning as well. So path comes from, okay, so this one doesn't have this. Let me get that and put it here. So the path, we're going to say path is equal to, let's combine, if there's a prefix, path prefix, right? And we add that to the current path. Now, a user may, let's see, slash, so there's slash admin, but then there's a slash here as well. Okay, so which is okay, then slash admin here, then slash users, and so on. So that is fine. Not sure what to do here. Maybe let's just combine these. I'm just going to say that and concatenate a path like so. Okay, so this path, we add a prefix to the beginning, which is great. But then let's remove any double slashes that we may encounter. So I'm just going to say path is equal to, and let's do rtrim to remove any trailing slashes. So rtrim path, what are we trimming? The a slash, if it exists at the very end. Now if path turns out to be empty, then let's just add a slash. So I'm going to say ltrim, path is equal to empty path. If path is empty, let's add a slash. Otherwise, let's maintain whatever path is. Okay, so this is just some cleanup here. So let me grab this and put it here as well. Okay, guys. So hopefully I haven't missed anything. Okay. So inside run here, all I want to do is just display what's inside routes. So I'm just going to do echo pre-tags and then print readable this routes. I just want to see how it has saved everything. So let me go to the home page here and delete all that. And let me just run this. So refresh, run. Okay, so look at that. So inside the get, we have a few routes. There's the home. There's the path, which is profile ID. That's great. This one will run the class profile and the method will be index. That's good. There's some middleware here, which is auth. That is great. No middleware here, but everything seems to be great. So let me look at the groups, the admin groups. So as you can see with the admin groups, the first item is admin over here, which is nice. And the class is inside admin/admin, which is great. Oh, is UC first here? Is it? This is suspicious. Let's see, users. That one is a folder name, so it shouldn't be capitalized. Anywho, this is what we get. Users, blah blah blah. This one has 2 middleware, but as you can see, these belong to a group. There's just the base admin, and then base admin/users, and then admin/users edit, and so on. These were added using the group. So which means our group method is working as intended, because they're all part of this. As you can see, I didn't actually put /admin at the beginning of them all, but it was added. I just want to make sure they've all of them have 2 middlewares here. I didn't notice that, and they actually do. Look at that. So things are working as intended. There's a post one here, same thing. Great. Now let me deal with this copy to admin. Where is that? This one here. This is wrong because the folder name I suspect will be a small letter. So let's deal with that. Where is route? Okay, so on class we are saying UC first. So this is where the problem arises. So let me remove this instead. We don't need to do that. Let me just trim this one. That should be enough, right? This one as well. Let's trim so that we remove any spaces, trailing or leading spaces will be removed. So let me copy this part and I can put it here. All right. Okay, so the part where we add the routes works. So over here, I want to include my URL here for a sec. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print the URL as well down here. So that's from the get variable URL. That way we can do a comparison as we try to figure this out. So there we go. We have this here, and then array is part of this. So let me just, I don't know here. Let me just put some break tag. All right, maybe that will be much better. I don't know. Okay, that works. So we have this here, profile edit. Now we need to compare this with every URL out here. So we're going to have to loop through this, but then we need to prepare this one. Now, if I don't put any, I just put a slash here, the key does not exist at this point, right? So if there's nothing there, the key does not even exist. So we have to code for that as well. So instead, we should have a slash there if it doesn't exist, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. Let me just go back to where we were. Okay, so there we go. And then we have this profile edit 3. So we have to look through all these paths and compare to see which one matches this. But this number here is a variable. It may be 4, 5, or some other number. So we have to put, we have to use a regular expression in order to match these to others. And so we have to put a pattern here to represent that. So what I'm going to do is, as we loop through these, okay, so this one has to match maybe one of these. Let's see which one it matches. It matches this one precisely. So what I'm going to do is, while we loop through these, I'm going to replace whatever item has brackets like this with a pattern that might match that. So let me come to this here. Let me copy that. So if we come to our code here, let me maximize. Let me open a new page. So let's imagine, for example, these are the possible outcomes we can have. So I need a pattern that will match this precisely. So if I do find here, like so, at the end here of the find down there, I could put something like a word, something like that. Okay. And then sometimes it could be a dash. Because, for example, instead of having edit here, I can have edit product, like with edit dash product, like that. But on the variable here, I could have something like, let me just, this is unrealistic, but if I had it, it would look something like that. Maybe it could be text instead. So, and it could have a dash in there. So I'm just going to put that dash there. But this should be in a bracket like this to make it work for all of that, and then put a plus like so. Okay, so that works. But we need this to be a group of its own. So I'm going to put that in brackets like so. So this is the pattern we need to add on every variable to get it right. Let me just check online here. If regex, I don't know if my internet is working well. Apparently it is. So what I want is to paste that pattern that I have, because this one at least shows me the groups that I have. Let me just grab maybe this one. Let me bring here into the string that I'm trying to search into, and then my search pattern here. So let me copy that and let me paste it here. I just want to confirm the groups over here. So these, I guess, are unescaped, must be escaped. So let me do that slash like so to escape those. Okay. So there we go. So here we have group 1, which shows us the result, the entire thing, and then just the 500 there because of that group here. So that's working as intended. So that's good. So let me go back here. Let's go to router here. So this is what I want to do and replace with every variable here. So let's go ahead and loop through on this run thingy here. So what I'm going to do is go down here. Actually, let's do it at the top. We can leave that info down there. So first of all, the path, I need that path. So I'm going to say path, or let me just call it URL. URL is equal to get, right, URL. Now, if it does not exist, let's just put a slash like that, okay, as the base. That's great. But if it doesn't have a, actually need to add a slash at the beginning, because that's how we record our URLs in the routes. So this one will not have that, because if you check here, let's see if we check, you see that the actual URL here doesn't have a leading slash. So let's add that. So I'm just going to say URL is equal to the slash, and then concatenate the current URL text. Now, sometimes the URL text will already maybe just that slash by itself. Okay. So in that situation, I'll have 2 slashes. So I don't want that. So I'm just going to do a left trim, L trim, and remove any slashes that existed before that. Okay, so now instead of get URL, I just want to echo URL. That way we know where we're at. So let me refresh, and there we go. That's what we have now. Now, if I go to my home page, what do I get? I get just the slash, which leads to the home page, which is awesome. Okay, so back there, let's now do a comparison with what we have. So I'm going to do this. Let's do a for each loop of all the routes that we have. So first of all, let's get what method we are using right now. So method is going to be equal to the current method in the server. So that's what request method. Okay. And that's the thing we're going to loop through. We just want to get either it's the get or the post, because there's no reason to go through the post routes if our current method is get. So here I'm going to do a for each loop. So this routes, and then let's put our method in there like that. Okay, so we're going through all the routes now to figure out which one will match our current situation. Okay, so the path that we get, you see there's key and key value pairs here. We don't really need the key because the way we save these is just the key is just 0, 1, 2, and so on. So we don't need that number. What we want is the route. That's the array that contains all this information, which is this. So what we're interested in is in the path. So what's the current path right now? And if that matches, then we can go ahead and do other things. Now, our current path is going to have these brackets. So I want to change those with a pattern. So what I'm going to do is string replace. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace that. So in order to replace, let's imagine it's like this. For example, let's say ID or slash, and then there's maybe category or something and some other thing here, right? It doesn't matter. All these are variables. I want it to be able to find all those variables. So I'm going to do Control F here to try and figure this out or create a pattern. I would rather use regex 101. So let me paste that info here. And let's try to create a pattern that will match this. So I just want to replace these guys with this, right? This here. Okay. So let me just copy that into here before I forget. I'm going to paste it here. This is really what I'm interested in, the pattern here. But I just want to hold that in place. Now, let me find those guys. So first of all, the slash to escape the bracket, like that. So there is a bracket. And then any word in there. The word may have a dash. So let's put a dash, but then let's hold this in square brackets and put a plus, any amount of that. And then a closing bracket like so. Okay, so it has matched these three, apparently. As you can see here, it has found ID, category, and user. But I want clean versions of these as well. So I'm going to group this one. So I'll put a group, which is the bracket, and group there as well. So as you can see now, there's one group, and that group gives me this result, which is great. And also this group gives me that result, a cleaner version. So I get cleaner versions of these guys, which is great. So this is my pattern right there. So I'm going to copy this. Let's come here and let's say pattern, because we want to create a pattern here. Pattern is equal to, and then we do a preg replace. Okay. So we want to keep, let me do this. Boom. So we want to look for this here. Wait, what is going on here? Instead of these slashes, let me use the hashes like that, just so there's no confusion, because you can use any character as the container for your pattern here. So with that, preg replace, what am I replacing with? I'm replacing with this text here. So I'm going to cut that and put it here like so. So I'm going to replace with that. And then the subject is the route path. Like that. Okay. Now we're going to have matches here. We're just replacing. That's what we're doing. So after that, let me just echo the pattern here. So I'm just going to do echo pattern like that. Let me move my pre-tags above here so that we can see whatever we echo here. Pattern, and let me do concatenate some break tags. That way we can clearly see what's going on. Okay, so each time I loop through the routes, I'm going to get a specific pattern. So let's see what we get with that. So I'm going to refresh. And there we go. So you see, with profile, I replace that. Products, I replace that, as you can see here. So let's look at those. This profile, I'm replacing that. Products, I'm replacing with these, which is great. Actually didn't need the groups, right? Because we are not replacing with any, yeah, I didn't need the groups. So this group is not required. We'll get the same result, actually. Yeah, exactly. So all those have been replaced. Why isn't this one replaced? Oh, this is the actual URL. Okay. So once we replace this, then we can use this as a pattern to check whether our URL matches this pattern. So if I grab this, for example, let's say we have products, this one right here. Let me see if it matches. So I'm going to copy this, and this is the text we're trying to match. And let's see if the right pattern here will match. That's products, which is this one. I just want to see if it's going to say it's a match. So let me paste that. I just need to escape these values here. Okay. So this does not match. Oh, sorry about that. I'm trying to, let's see which one we have. What we have is actually this one, the profile edit 3. So let me do that. In the URL. Then let's match something similar, which is this one. This one should match this. So let me put that pattern here and escape those two. So let's see what we get. So yeah, we get, first of all, a match here, which matches the whole thing, and then the clean version of what we matched there. So that's great. But it has to match from beginning to end. So let's see. That's not the right one. This is profile, edit. So we don't actually have a route like this now, do we? Profile, edit, number. We do. There it is. Profile, edit, and ID. So profile. Why was that one missed? Profile. Huh. Okay. That's very strange. Wait a second. Oh, it's in the post. That's why. Okay, so we need a get version of this. Let me go to routes. This one right here only has a post. Let's get the get version of it. Let's just add it to that. And there we go. So we have this one. Let me just confirm that it matches our pattern here. There we go. There we go. Okay, so it does match, which is great. And it gives us the variable as well. Excuse me. Okay, good. So let's go back to route here. So once we have that pattern, let's now match whatever route we have currently with that pattern. So if preg match, okay, so we need a pattern here, and we're just going to put those like that. And then we need to match it from beginning to end. So I'm going to put the beginning caret and the end $sign. And then in between here, I want us to put that pattern. Now let me use double quotes so that it evaluates that as a variable. So beginning to end, and then subject here is the current route path. Nope, actually the URL. We are matching with the URL. Okay, so let's see what match we get. So here I'm going to say return if we match something, but then let's echo the match. Echo match found, and that match will be a good question. Let's look at the matches here. So we're going to give it a variable to put all the matches that it found. So that should contain echo match found, break tag, print readable, the matches. Okay, great. So let's see how that works. Let me see if we get a match. So syntax error on line 74. Let's fix that. Echo should not be like that. Okay, so there we go. So a match was found with this. Wait a minute. This is not match found. What I need to know is the current route that we found. So the route is this one, path, and which one it matched with. So there we go. Let me echo a break tag over here. Okay, let's see that. So if I now refresh, there's a match with this route, and it matches this one, as you can see. Then it gives me the variables as well, which is great because there's a clean version of that variable, which I can match with that. Okay, so that's good. And I'm actually seeing the need to have those groups here as well. So let me put those groups back here because I want those names as variable names. So I'm going to do this. And within that pattern, I'm going to give it another version of matches. So this one I'm going to say route matches. Okay, so I give it somewhere to save the matches it found so that I use those as variable names. And then these are URL matches. Okay, so let me copy this and put it here. All right, so there we go. Okay, so we have a match. Let me see if we can get another match here just to be sure it works. Let's try products and then a variable and another variable. So let's try that. So I'm going to go here and say products. And then there's a variable here. It doesn't matter. Product could be juice. That's not how you spell juice, is it? And then maybe an ID. We have a route like that. Okay. Undefined variable route matches. Okay. So I made a boo-boo here. There's route path, URL matches, and route matches. Okay. What is going on? Preg replace. Okay, what line is the error? Line 70. Preg replace. Wait a second. Let me see. Am I missing something? Preg replace in PHP. Let's figure out what the other, what is this? Argument number 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see argument number 4. What is it supposed to be? So the pattern, the replacement, the subject, oh, the limit. Oh, I see. So you don't get a preg match. Okay. I see here. So preg replace, we just get the pattern. And if the match was found, we get those matches here. But I still want to get the names of the variables here. So what I'm going to do here. Okay, so this doesn't work. So let's cut that out. So instead, we have the URL matches, but maybe let's do another match here. Let's say preg match. Let's see. Let me do a preg match all to get all the matches here. And I'm going to repeat this here. Let me paste the variable that I had gotten here. So route matches, there it is. And let me duplicate here. I just want to see if we get that. Let me put that here. So what I'm trying to do is extract the variables. If you go to routes here, when I add like ID here, I want this to be a variable name of whatever the user put here. Maybe it's a number. I'm going to give it the name ID. So I just want to grab this. Whatever variable is here, I'll give it the name cat, and this one here, ID. So I just want to grab this text itself inside there, and then use the values in the URL to add those two together to make an array. So let me come back here. So with these route matches, oh, there is matches here, right? Let me do that. The subject is, I'm getting this from the route path. Okay. So I'm just going to put this pattern here back. So let me copy this and put it here. So then I can remove these groups again, but keep them here. So if I do that preg match, I should have routes down here. So let me see if that actually worked. So let's refresh. Okay, so a match was found with this one. That's what we were going for. And then in here, we have juice, which is that variable. And then these are values from the URL. So there's juice and 45. But at the same time, I need the variable names, which is this one here. So I get this array. I don't want this 0 value. I want the first value here, which is great. So let me try and just do value 1 here. And let's see what we got. Okay, good. So this is great because now I have an array that has, though there are 3 values here and 2 values here, I want to leave just 2 values here so that I can merge these together and use these as the keys and these as the values. So this one I have to remove. I'm going to use array pop because array pop just removes the first item because this one is just the URL. So let me remove that. So from URL matches here, I'm going to say, if there was a match, I'm going to say array pop. Okay. Now array pop will remove the first item, but you can save it to a variable if you want, like that. But I don't need that value, so I'm just going to pop it out. That way, both these will have the same number of items. And look at that. Oh, wait. Yeah, the array pop actually moves something from the end of the array. So my mistake. It's array shift, is it? Or maybe it's array unshift. It's been a while. Okay, so juice 45. So it's array shift, apparently. How is array unshift then? What does that do? Let's see. Oh, I don't see what it does really. Okay, anyway, we got what we wanted. So now we have two arrays here that one has the values, one has the keys. So I want to make a third array that combines these two. So it seems there is a function to do that, combined. Or let's just call these vars or something like that. What do we call them? Params. Let's call them params. So after doing array shift and doing a preg match there, let me just swap these. It doesn't matter the order there. So I'm going to say params is going to be equal to an array that we create with array combine. So we combine which one will contain the keys. Let's check it out here. Which array contains the keys? It's this one, the second one. So the second one is this one. That's the keys. So let me put that there. And the first one, array matches, is the values. Okay, good. So now we're going to get params down here. So let's see what we get. And there we go. So now you can see we get a match and we get the values and we get the keys from the route. And then we combine those. So now I have an array that has cat is equal to juice, ID is equal to 45, as you can see here. So let's find another route. Let's see if we try a route that does not exist. Okay. We don't get any matches at all. So no matches found. But let's look for routes we actually have to test this out. So I want the admin, a route that's like admin/users/edit and then an ID. So let's go there. So I'm going to do admin/users/edit/ maybe 45. Okay, so a match was found, which is great, and ID is 45. Okay, that's good. And let's look for something else. Let's say we don't have many routes that have different versions of this, right? Let's say if this was a I don't know. Let's do it in here. So instead of users, let's say posts, like that, and then maybe there's a category here, category, and then ID, something like that. Okay, this is just for testing. So it's in the admin. So let's go to admin, posts, and then my category. My category should be like maybe food, and then an ID. And there we go. So it's working, as you can see here. That's great. So we should only match one thing at a time and return. So once the match is found, we return because that's all we needed, right? And actually, there's no need to wait. If we do that, we should cancel the loop. We can either return or I think return is fine. Okay, so this is going well. Now we have some params, and now the only thing remaining is to run the right method. Okay, so let me cancel these instead. I don't want to see these. Instead here, let's look at the route itself. The route has, whatever route we are at, there is a class and there is a method. And then there's middleware. Now, before we get to middleware, I just want us to run the appropriate class that we found. So let's try if we are on the home page. I haven't tried that. Let me remove all of that. So there's a match here, but there are no variables. So that's understood because it's on the home page. But we need to run a specific oh wait, params is empty. Eh? Okay, so we need to run a specific class. So inside classes here, inside controllers, there is a home controller. So we have to find that controller. So let's say controller is equal to a, so we know all our controllers are inside app/controllers. So that's where we look. And then let's concatenate that to the route class, whatever the route class is at the time. And then let's do .php. So we combine that with .php at the end. And then we just require that file. So I'm just going to do require controller. Okay. Let's see if the controller file exists. Now, there is a possibility that it does not exist. If file exists controller, then we require it. However, if it does not exist, we'll do an else and then echo controller not found. Now, you can put whatever you want here instead of all this. Maybe you have error handling that's better than this. You put it here. And let's do that. Okay. Controller file not found. All right, so let's refresh. There's a syntax error and unexpected identifier cubic. Okay, of course, we shouldn't have this inside the home controller. So at least it found the file, right? And it should be public instead. Sorry about that. So let's refresh, and no errors, which means it loaded the file quite right. So that's great. If we loaded the file, we should now instantiate it. So let me put these curly braces here, because we are now going to have multiple lines. Once we require that, I'm just going to say class, because I want to instantiate it, is go to new. Yeah, now this is the thing here. Now we need to instantiate the home controller here. Now we are inside a specific namespace, so unless they're in the same namespace, it's going to be a problem. So this one, let's give it a different namespace inside namespace controllers. So that's the namespace we have. So we should know that it's controllers / whatever the controller name is. So let's come back here. So new, and I'll put these in brackets and put quotes like that, / controllers / okay, so this / here is escaping the quote here, so I'm going to have to double that / so that it escapes itself instead of escaping the quotation. So controllers, and then the concatenate the actual route class like that. So I'm trying to instantiate that class right there, and then I'm just going to print R. I'm going to print R the class just to see if it was instantiated properly. So let's see here. If I refresh, so you see I have instantiated the home object. So we have that home object, which is great. The only thing now is we need to run a function within the object. So we find that function inside the method that we've chosen. So let's just check to see if that method exists before we try to run it. So we'll say if method exists. Now you have to supply an object, which is great because we just created an object with that class, which is right here. It's the controller home object. So it's a valid object. We just want to see if there's a method within that object within what do you call this, route method, whatever method is saved in there. Okay, good. So let's echo method found. Let's do that. Sorry about that. So let's refresh. So method found, that's great. I don't need to print R this. If the method does not exist, we will echo here something like method not found. And then what method that is. So now we need to know what class, first of all, we are talking about. So I'm just going to say that method not found, and then concatenate an arrow. You can design this any way you want. I just think the arrow would describe that better. So there we go. So let me refresh. Method found. So that method was found, which is the index method, right? But let's go back to our routes. In the case where we put a different method, let me say maybe the save method in the home there, and it's not there, this is what we get. Method not found, home save. Okay. Actually, maybe instead of the arrow, I think the double full colon makes more sense. So let's do that. Yeah. And we should add to know that this is a method. Let's add those brackets to make it look much cooler. Okay, so method not found, home save. Okay, great. But we should also tell the user that this is inside controllers. That way it's just easier to debug this because if you don't write your error messages properly, it may be hard after a while to know what they are talking about. Oh, so sorry here, I'm escaping this. Let me escape it again like that. So refresh. Okay. So controllers, home, save, not found. Okay, good. But if it is found, let's run it. Okay, let's run that method. So in order to run a method that was found, we're going to use the function. It's called user_func. Core user_func. Yes. Now I want this other one, the core user_func array, instead of core user_func. So both of these just call a user function. So you can run a function using this. So this is a function that runs another function. So I want this version because I can add some params there, as you can see. So let me put some params here, my params over there as an array. But then the function here I want to run is, let me do this. Now, normally I would just say the function name, like index, right? Something like that. That's the function name I want to run. I need to find that function and run it and supply these params to that function. However, in this case, I am running a function within a class. So what I should do is convert this into an array. And then the first value will be the class. And then the second value will be the method. So in this case, I will just supply this method string right there, like that. Okay, so run that guy, and that should be the end of it. So let's come back here, and let me refresh. So the method wasn't found, so let's change that in routes. Let me remove that so that it defaults to index. So if I refresh, you see that from home controller. So which is great because in the home controller, we have this echo here. That's what's running. So just like that, we are able to create controllers for any page. So let's try a few, like from the admin controller. Let's see how those work. Let me do controllers, new file, and paste. And instead of home, this one will be admin. And from admin controller, something like that. So let's save that as the admin.php. However, keep in mind that when we went to routes here, like the home route thingy, wait, What is this? This one should be inside a folder. So I almost forgot about this. So we should fix that. So since this is inside a folder, that's where the path should be. So what I'm going to do is go to routes, because right now this is going to tell me not found, I'm assuming. Let me go inside the controllers and create a new folder. I'm going to call it admin. This is where all the admin controllers are going to be. Let me open this folder and move my admin into that admin folder. Great. So now if we tried this, say /admin, I wouldn't get any results. Let me actually remove all this stuff down here, because this only happens if we don't find anything. Okay, so for each, if by the time we get here, no controller, no matches, right? So if we get to this point, it means we didn't match anything. So this is should ideally just load the 404 controller instead. So what I'm going to do is just copy this part up to here and paste it here so that we load the page not found. So we don't need to, anyway, we can still check to see if the 404 wasn't found either, so that you can add it if you need to. So let me just do that. Controller not found. So here inside controllers, instead of all this, we're just going to do 404. There we go. Now the problem is I can't name a class as 404. So maybe I'll do underscore and then 404. I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do here. But the file, we can name it that. So that's okay. It's just that here, where we are concatenating, let's add underscore 404 like that. Okay, as a new class. And then I think that's pretty much it. So now I need to create that controller, because otherwise it will tell me controller not found. So let's try this again. If I refresh, controller not found, that 404 controller. Okay, great. Let's make it. I'm going to copy that and inside controllers, paste, and this one will be 404. And let's save it as 404.php. Great. But we can't name a class this, so I'm going to put an underscore there, and that becomes a valid class, which is great. It's just that inside the router, we should reference that, which is what I'm trying to reference there. Okay, let's see if we get that to work. So method not found, delete. Controllers, users, delete. Wait a minute. Why is it asking about that again? Okay, so this is wrong. This should be just the index. So let me do this and say index. And the class 404 route method. We shouldn't use that as well here. Method exists. Index, right? Core user array func. That makes sense. This one we should put 404 as well here. Let me just do 404. Okay, and over here we should have index. Why is it? This is weird. It should just be like this, like that. Okay, great. Like so. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so undefined variable params on 105, that's understood because we don't have params here. So I'm just going to put an empty array. Okay, so from 404 controller. So if the page is not found, this is what we should get. Okay, 404. Like if I just type something like that, we get 404. However, if I just type the home page, that's home controller. profile. We don't have that yet. How about admin? We don't have that yet either. Okay, so now it's up to you. You can just tell the user the controller isn't there or something if we don't find it. Okay, controller file not found. Okay, it's just the route that isn't there. So on the routes here, let's just try that. So when we say /admin, this is what it should look for, that file name. So let's save this one properly, okay? There's a part where we are splitting this. We should also try to split that as well. Or we should try and put a slash there. That will make sense. So let's go to our router again. Up here, where we are exploding that, there's parts 0. And let's see here. So trim, that's a class name, parts 0. However, let's do a string replace inside here. So I'm going to do string replace. What are we searching for? It's the dot. And what are we replacing it with? Actually, you know, let's do things a little bit more professional here. Let me just add one more thing here. Let's say subfolder, okay? Let's put a subfolder there. And normally it should just be empty like that if there's no subfolder. But let me come back here. Let's do parts. So right after this, I'm going to say, you know, I need better naming for these things. So let's explode with a dot, parts 0. Okay, so that part, let's explode. And this one is subfolders. Okay, for lack of a better name, that is. So we're going to explode that. Now, if there are no subfolders or there's no dot here, then the very subfolder 0 will work just fine here on class. I don't know how well that will make sense, but let's do that. I should be doing this on the get version, but that's fine. Okay, so subfolders there. But then, if there is a... Oh, yeah, this is where the trick is. So what I'm going to do is, let's do this. Let's say if count subfolders is greater than 1, okay? So that means there are subfolders there, okay? If it's greater than 1, then the very last item should be... Actually, we don't even need to check. What am I doing here, actually? Okay, so I explode this. Let's just say the class name. That's what I'm trying to look for here. So the class should be equal to... Now, I need to have this set to something before I go ahead. So first of all, I'm just going to save it as parts 0, just in case none of this turns out correct. But if there is greater than 1 here, it means the class should be the end value, the very last item inside the exploded item. So that should be the last item. That's the class. But then the rest should be... How do I put it? I should just say path and then the class itself. I think that will work better. So let me do this. So here what we're doing is, if there are subfolders, let's just get the very last item. That's the real class name, because we need to know just the class name itself. And then if, for example, if there are no subfolders, then class is going to be equal to just the first item there. So that's okay. But then at the end of the day, we need to string replace those subfolders. So subfolders is equal to that. Then subfolder itself will be equal to, is there a subfolder at all? I need a clever way to do this with as little code as possible. Now, I'm sure you guys can do a better job than I am doing here because I have to think quick because of the tutorial. So let's see what I come up with. Now, subfolders, explode. Okay, so when we go through here, this is the only time we should have subfolders. Subfolder without an S is equal to string replace. So I want to replace that dot with a slash. Okay, and the subject is parts 0. All right, so subfolder becomes this. Now, in the situation where we have subfolders, this is going to result in something like admin/admin, like that, okay? Then I can use this to load the file, right? But then I still need the clean class name itself, which is going to be this one. So class is going to be equal to class. You can just put it in here like that. Okay, and the rest still works as it should. So let me remove this here. So if subfolder has something, then if it's not empty, that is, so subfolder is equal to empty string there, so that it's always there. And yep, that sure does it, I think. So let me grab these guys and do the same here. The only difference is that this one is going to the get, like so. Okay, so hopefully that worked, but we can check to confirm that that worked by just echoing those things here. And we still have the pre-tags, so I'm just going to do print readable this routes. Okay, so let's see what we have there. So there's a syntax error on line 134. So let's check it out. Wait, 134? What is the syntax error? Unexpected identifier print readable. Okay. How? So there's no matching. Wait. What is this? Oh, this should actually go in here. Sorry. All right. So it was outside the function. That's why. Refresh. Okay, there we go. So with these, this is what we get. So home, there's no subfolder. Great. No subfolder. Great. Let's go to the admin, juicy admin part. So in here, where we have admin, we have a subfolder because that goes in there. And the class is still admin. That's good. And how about here? /admin users. That's the path. There are no subfolders, are they? Yeah, because we didn't specify the controller with a subfolder there. So that's great. I guess this works. So now we need to change how we load our controllers. So here, instead of just class, if, so we're going to do this, if not empty, routes subfolder, then we use the subfolder. But if it's empty, then we use the other one. So let me do this. Let me move these guys in. And let me put an else statement here. Okay, so if not empty, subfolder. So what we're going to do there is use the subfolder instead on this part. Okay. So let's try that. So syntax error, unexpected variable on line 95. What did I do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this has to have a bracket here. Okay, great. Let's refresh. And there we go. So it didn't find a match still. And why is that? It did not find a match. No match was found, right? Okay, so let's see what's going on here. A match should have been found. Break match, blah, blah, blah. Method not found. I'm confused here. Let me echo here just to see if we ever get a match. Okay. So we never do get a match, do we? Okay, so that's the only reason we have that. That's good. Let me remove these guys over here. Or just mute for now. So the reason is because we have inside routes, there's /admin, which is admin index. So this one should work, like admin and then slash, wait a second. Oh, maybe because of the slash here. Let me do that. Let's see. Doesn't still work. Okay, so there's a problem here. Let me see how the routes look like. Oops. Let me go to routes again. Undo this. Refresh. Okay, so that one has /admin. Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. I had put the trailing slash there. So maybe we should be removing those trailing slashes because they are causing problems. Because if I do that, then nothing is found, which is not true. So let's be removing the trailing slash from our URL. So URL is here. Instead of ltrim, let's trim on both sides. So like that. So that even with that, we still get to the admin controller. And this takes us to the home controller. Okay, great. So admin has worked, even though it's in a folder. So the controller is here in a folder, but we still found it. So this should still work for subfolders as well. If I add this inside subfolders, that should work as well. Let me try a route that is inside admin /users, for example. Admin /users, which will be inside the admin dot users route inside the admin folder. So let's try that. I'm gonna copy this, copy, and go inside here, new, and this one will be users. Okay, so users controller. Okay, so namespace controllers, users from admin users controller. Okay, so let's try this. I'm gonna go admin /users, and there it is. So it works. So homepage, admin /users. All right, guys. So the routing system is essentially working at this point. Pretty good, isn't it? Let's try to find, go to something that isn't found, and there's 404. Okay, very, very good. So the only thing remaining now is middleware, and let's make that work. Currently, what we have is this system here. If I go to routes, there is the add middleware function here. The only reason this would work just fine, by the way, because all we need to do is check if there are any middleware that were added and then run that function. So we can do this by, let's see, for example, let me see here. Instead of all this header, location, login, because we don't have really a login page, maybe it can take us to the login, and then we get 404. Let's check it out, because this is just to check. Most of the time you're going to be dealing with a session in here. It would be a good idea to have a session handler, so that you don't have to type session like this, but you create a class. However, this will do just fine. Normally you'll be checking in the session to see if a user has this user information, which tells you whether the user is logged in or not. So in here, where there is auth, for example, this is something typical you might do, is the user session set. Obviously, there are some other checks you can do to see if that's a valid user according to your database type or whatever you're doing. And then if that doesn't tally, if it returns false, then you redirect the user to the login page and die. So you can do much more complex stuff here, of course, to check if a user is an admin, whatever you want to do. You can make as many middleware functions as you want. Okay. The only problem is sometimes these can get quite complex and they can be quite many. And since they have to come before your routes, at some point you can do too many and your routes disappear into the distance there. At which point you could just put these routes in a different file and just include it here. That's another option. But what I prefer to do is just create a separate class to handle this part. Now let me show you how you could handle it if this was the ultimate goal. If we go to add middleware in our router, where is that function? By the way, let me remove this. Okay, so add middleware is empty for now. Let's see how we can make it work. So add middleware takes in two things: the auth, the name of the middleware, and the function. Okay, so this would be pretty easy. We just go here and we just say middlewares and set that as an array. Okay, so add middleware, it just adds to that thing. So here we're just saying this middlewares, it's an array, so we can just add to the array, and then here we expect the name of the middleware and the func, right? The middleware function. So all I need to do is just add the name of the middleware there is equal to the func. That's all. So as we add those middlewares, all we need to do now is check if there's a middleware for what we are doing right now, and then run those. It's as simple as that. So I can go to, let's say, where is this? In the run function, right about here, before we even load the controller, right? Right in here, once we find the pattern, that particular route already has middleware, so we can run those things first before we even attempt to load anything, right? Now, it depends. If you want your params to be there while you're running the middleware, that's entirely up to you. So you can do that after the params, but before you load the controller, okay? So, or you can decide to do this after you check if the controller really exists. But here we can say middleware. Okay, so right about here, we just need to loop through our current middleware, and that is inside routes. No, the current route here, and then middleware, like that. Now that's because we are saving middleware in there as an array with the names of those middleware. So all we need to do is just loop through them. So here, we don't need to know, we need to know the key actually in this case. So I'm going to call it mid key or something. And then here is the funcs, right? Oh, is it? Route middleware. What am I looping through? No, I don't need the key because I'm just adding. These keys are just 1010. Okay. So I just need to know the mid. I'm just going to call them mid like that, like a middleware name, mid name actually. So that's the mid name. So if it exists, if not empty. Okay, this middlewares, which is the array that contains all the middleware we've added, and then mid name. If that one exists, then let's run it, shall we? So here I'm just going to say, because this is where we saved the function. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it here and just put two brackets like that, which will run it like a function. So let's see if that actually works. In our routes, which ones have auth? For example, authentication. This one has auth, the admin section. Okay, so let's try the home page. Nothing problematic here. Let's try and go to the admin instead. And you see, it takes us to the login page. Sorry, I was saying before I was rudely interrupted that we were redirected to the login page, as you can see there, which does not exist, so we get the 404 controller instead. So as you can see here, it works already. The home page loads just fine, but the admin page requires authentication, as you can see. So middleware is not hard to do, as you can see there. But let me show you a different method we can do instead of this, I think, which is much better. So since the middleware functions are things that you can use over multiple projects, you can just create a class for middleware itself. So inside classes here, let's just create middleware class. So I'm just going to right click, the namespace is core here, that's fine. So let's create a new file. Let me save this as middleware, capital M, .php. Let's create a class. So we're going to call it middleware, and now you can do this in many different ways, but this is just one of them. Let's add a namespace core, just so it's in one namespace here. And in here, all you need to do is create the methods that are supposed to be here. So instead of putting these inside routes, I'm going to cut this one out. Let's save that, so that here you just put the routes, and then the middleware functions will be in here. So let's do public. All of these will be public functions. And we call this one admin, for example, like that. And then let me remove these. Okay, so if not is set, whatever you want there, and there you go. So this should work the same way. Now, when you have another middleware function, you just add them to this. Maybe this one is auth. The other one is admin. So if you say if not is set, or user or session, okay, user. So maybe there's a row, user row here, and the row there is not equal to admin, something like this, right? Then you redirect the user. So this can be the auth for admin. This one can be the auth for just normal authentication. And then if you want to make sure that, because we'll be using sessions a lot in the middleware, what you can do is maybe we reuse that constructor back. The construct. This is the function that runs when you instantiate this class. Here, I just want to check if session was already started. So we're going to say session start here. So we just check, because you can start it twice. So we're going to say if session ID, if empty, session ID, then you do session start. Okay, so once you instantiate that, the session is on, and then we can check for all these values in here. So once we have this middleware thing, just don't forget to add it to the loader, because we have router here, and let's add middleware to that as well. Okay, so now inside routes, we have this, and we have middleware over there. So we don't need to do anything more than that here. All we have to is change the router here where it's doing middleware. Where is this? Right here. We instantiate the middleware class. So we say middleware is equal to new core middleware. Okay, so there we go. The middleware will do that. And now we just need to check if a function with that name actually exists. So we do need to loop through these guys still. So let's do that loop. Then we check if there's a specific method that we want. So if not empty, this middleware, so instead of the if not empty, we're going to check if method exists. So the object is the middleware class, and what method are we looking for is the mid name at that point. So if that exists, then run it. So we're going to say, oh, wait. So core user func, right? Core user func array. That's the one I want. Okay, so the function will be an array, like I said last time. We'll put the middleware there, and the function itself, which is mid name. And then if we have any params, you're going to have to add them here. But for now, we don't, so we're going to leave that empty. Now, with the params, you can put some if statements here and say, okay, if the middleware is about admin, let's get some variables that we should send to the function here, etc., etc. Oh, by the way, there's something I forgot here, the params. The params are sent here. So let's say, for example, I didn't show you guys how to use the params, but let's just see if this works before we go any further. So I am at the home page here, and home controller is fine. Now, if I go to admin controller, I still get that issue, as you can see. So let me confirm that by removing the auth or the admin middleware from this section here. And let's see if we can access the admin page then. And as you can see, we are able to access the admin page without any problems. But if we add those middleware, then we get the checks. So that way, if I do this, I go to my login page instead. Okay. So great, things are working here, but the params that we send. So for example, if I go to, let's say admin/users, right? This one, let's say, for example, this one, edit, right? I need to know what I'm editing, which is an ID here. So users edit, user edit. So let me try and create that, the edit function. So this one will be edit, like that, from admin users edit controller. Okay. So let's see if we can go with that. So that's admin. Now, because with the admin, we have our middleware. So what I'm going to do is just remove it from our routes for now. I'm just going to mute that. So let's see if we can get to the admin controller. That's great. Now, if I add users and then I say edit and then slash maybe 60, something like that. So controller not found, controller users.php. Okay, let's check that out. This is on the users edit. This one is repeated. Oh, this is for the post. Okay, so that's fine. So user edit should be there. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, so this one should be in the admin folder dot users edit, like that. So if I refresh, okay, so there we go. Now it says unknown named param ID on 115. Okay, let's go to router here. Let's see what's going on 115, which is here. What is going on here? So unquote error, unknown named parameter ID. Okay, I don't know what this error actually means. So usually we just need to check what is inside this thing. So I'm just going to do params like that. Okay, let's see what's in there. Okay, so there is ID, which is 60, and that's correct. So what is the problem? Unknown named parameter. Let's see. Do I need to send this as an array like this? Maybe I do. Let me check that. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, guys. So this should be an array of items, right? Yeah. So this should be sent as an array and params in there, I hope. So let me check, because it's supposed to be extracted on the other side. So maybe that's why it should be like that. So now how do I grab that ID? This one here. Let me remove the print params here. We don't need that. And let me remove the pre-tag echo there, because we are not going to need that very soon. So if I now refresh, this is what I get from admin users edit controller. Now in there, the edit controller, I can grab ID like that. Okay? Because I know that ID should always exist. So here I can say ID is equal to, and then I can concatenate that ID, just to see that I am able to transfer that ID to that location. So if I refresh, array to string conversion. Okay, so that's not cool, which means I did the wrong thing here when sending the params. So params should just be an array like so. So if I do that and refresh, there we go. So I get that quite right. Okay, so ID is equal to 60. Now if I edit this to 68, you see it change over there. So this is how you transfer the params from this to. Now if for example I don't put the param here, then I will get page not found, right? Which is great. Or if I do 45 and then put some other text here, I still get the same thing, unless some text, and there we go. Okay, so our routing system is working as intended, so it seems. So here are the routes here, and this is what you can do. So play around with these and see what you can break and what you can't break. Test things, and that's how you learn things, by trying them yourself. So type this whole thing back from scratch by yourself and see how far you can go without looking at the actual reference code. That should help. And in here you can add as many middleware as you want in form of functions here. And yep, then you can reuse this middleware class as often as you need to. Alrighty guys, so I hope you have learned something from this. I hope you've learned something, and I will see you guys in another tutorial.